Greetings, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Welcome back to my Valheim series. Today we've got a lot of gathering to do, but we're going to start off by showing you a couple of things that have changed. You might be thinking, what the hell is that structure? Well, if you have a quick look where we are, I actually built a hut and put a portal in it on top of that crypt. And the reason for that is because it's right next to where that Surtling farm is. So anytime I need a bunch of charcoal, I can just AFK in the hut and pretty much nothing's going to be able to get to me up there. And I just wait until a bunch of Surtling dies and we get a bunch of charcoal and all the other good stuff they drop. In the meantime, we are resuming our efforts to thin out the local wildlife. So far, that is now including a bit of abomination action. And yeah, gotta say, abominations do hit kind of hard, but they are becoming a little bit on the routine side, the same way that trolls do. So I guess, if an abomination dies in a forest, it seems to take out a lot of trees with it as well. Now, there is quite a lot of action in this episode, and we jump over to this particular piece of action involving a 2-star Draugr, and I'm going to tell you, even with this shield, this guy is scary. More so because I keep failing to block his attacks. Oof, that was close. Still, as the jingle says, you only need 1 hit point and you're alive. I had a whole 10 hit points, so yeah. Alright, as part of the exploring component of today's exercise, you can see in the distance there, and indeed by the colour of the ground nearby, this is all plains. Plains very bad for me in this gear. If you think a 2-star Draugr hits like a freight train, and it does, little fueling, or goblins as I'm going to refer to them henceforth, that's carrying that little torch up there in the distance, even a normal one of those makes a 2-star Draugr look like, I don't know, a skeleton. I am really not ready for the plane, so we're going to continue to give it a wide berth. Alright, here's a bit of an external view briefly of that little structure that's got the portal in it. And as you can see, it's right next to where this Surtling farm is. Now you'll see that other tiny little structure immediately to my right. That's just to protect the workbench. I wanted to make sure there was a workbench in range so that if for some reason I wasn't able to get in there and loot all of the goodies, they wouldn't end up despawning because I'd, logged out and logged back in again. So we're all good there. Turns out there actually isn't much waiting for me, but then I wasn't really within the vicinity for more than a couple of minutes anyway. The Surtling farms are a bit random that way. Sometimes you'll get a bunch of them one after the other. Other times you might be waiting a couple of minutes before any of them start spawning in. Alright, we managed to cross a fair bit of exploration off the list for today's episode. Now we're moving straight into the gathering element of today's episode. And as I can hear, there is a spawner here somewhere. Maybe not super close, but it's within a room or three of the entrance. So we're going to keep our eye out for that one. We've got a Draugr hiding in the corner there. And we've got this tragic little figure of a slime who got stuck behind that torch. So, you know, sometimes you get some lucky breaks, other times, eh. Anyway, we've had a few runs through crypts at this stage, so increasingly you are going to see me sort of speeding up the footage from time to time. And that's because, you know, last weekend, it was a wet weekend, and I ended up recording, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours worth of, you know, Valheim. And it's taken me more than half of Saturday this week to just crop it all down to useful episode sizes. So, yes, you're most welcome, but you're going to need your extra strength straps to keep you in place for all of the content that's going to be coming through your eyeballs and YouTube, and a combination of the two in the coming, I don't know, week or week and a half that I'll release these episodes through. And you can expect the pace of episode release to be fairly high, I will say, because the Ashlands update went live earlier this week, and I've got a lot of work to do before this, you know, this save game is even close to being able to go to Ashlands. So I'm very keen to get there. Unfortunately, there is only so many hours in the day, but anytime I'm getting wet weekends or a decent night's sleep, I will be endeavouring to get all of the episodes out that I can. So, stay tuned, keep your super strength helmet on, and let's get back to the action. Quite surprisingly, most of these crypts actually were very easy to run. I mean, notwithstanding doing the door knocker method makes them even easier, but I didn't come across much in the way of resistance. In fact, as you're going to see over the coming episodes, most of the stronger resistance, I was getting that outside the crypts, not in them. But nonetheless, still some good stuff going on, and we most certainly ended up getting quite a lot of iron. The sound of flies is getting a lot closer. I think we might be approaching the point where we have that spawner to deal with. Alright, and as I randomly punch the stack of crud on the wall, we have come to realise that our one fairly well upgraded bronze pickaxe turned out to be not quite enough to deal with the amount of mining that we're doing in this dungeon. And there is actually quite a lot more to be dug up here, so we're going to make an impromptu run back to base, and since we've got to run back, we're going to take whatever iron we can carry. So we can go back, repair up, and then return for some more action. Alright, and as we walk back to our chest... Sir, how much iron have we gathered? Oh, we have gathered this much iron. Is that enough? No, it is not. And so we return to destroy some locals. And we are now being taught a very valuable lesson about poisons. That was a 2-star leech. As you can see, that poison is ticking for 4.4 damage a second. And with the total duration... Technically, it wouldn't have quite killed me, but it would have left me with, I don't know, 3 or 4 hit points left. So, you know, high-level poison, yeah, don't be messing with it. Anyway, we resume our relay runs. As you can see, we did carry some more back there, and we've still got more here to go. Now, we haven't resumed mining yet. We're just trying to clear out whatever we already have in this chest, just on the off chance that there's more to this crypt than meets the eye. So that chest there with all of our fat loot in it is starting to look pretty sexy. Is it enough yet? No. No, it's not. Alright, well, how much iron do we need? Yes. Alrighty, the spawner is toast. So we can now stop, clenching, and we can now get on with further mining and looting of all of the really good stuff. Not to mention, Valheim just really making sure we know where the nearest bone mass spawner is. Alright, well, it looks like we have now cleared this crypt. Just loading up with whatever I could carry. The wood I'm not that fussed about, but I had room for some, so I thought I'd take it. That chest, sir, is that enough iron yet? No, it's not. Not by a long shot. Alright, so we went back, we repaired, we've moved on. This is another crypt, brand spanky new one. And we know the drill. Well, we know the mining pick. We haven't got a drill. Now, if you're wondering why I keep emphasising the fact that we really do not have enough iron yet, it's not just for our immediate needs. I mean, the iron, like the set of iron armour, needs a ridiculous amount of iron. Like I think it's 20 iron per piece just to make it, and then the upgrades are ridiculous. So, firstly, we need a ton of iron just for that. But on top of that, there is a bunch of other stuff that needs it as well. And that's before I even consider making, iron reinforced pillars and things like that for improving the base itself. So, a bit like the chests, with iron, I reckon it's worse. If you think you've got enough iron, you've got maybe half or a third or less of what you're actually going to use. Because there's recipes later on too that need it, and I'm trying not to leave myself in a position where I'll have to come back to the swamp to get more iron. Yeah, not a bad haul, considering it was a really low effort crypt this one. To get over 120 iron out of one crypt is pretty good. Definitely not arguing with that. Now we're left with the lovely task of trying to get all of this stuff back to base. Now, if you're curious as to why I don't just load myself up on the first run and, come back overloaded, you're about to see why. Yeah, right, it's just a Dragoon. Oh, yeah, okay, it's a 2-star Dragoon. Let's be a bit careful here. We don't want to die, and that was a catastrophically badly timed potion. But it's on there, it's getting us our health back. We just need to try and take this guy down while trying to take as little damage as we can from him. You try and give your stamina a bit of a break, you try and sort of bait a swing from them, and then where possible sort of step out of range so you're not even needing to block it. But once I started to gain some traction, I was able to prevail. But even with that upgraded shield, you know, I was blocking most of the attack, but I was still taking damage through that block. And you can't always, you know, keep that up indefinitely. So a bit of strategy never hurts. So here we are back at our chest, and for the eagle-eyed viewers, you might be wondering why there isn't more iron in that chest. You could have sworn there was more iron in that chest. Has there been a filthy troll in there stealing our iron? Well, actually, no, there wasn't. I've, off camera, because it's quite a relay trip to take the iron back to the tower on the Elder Island. I've just been doing that off camera, so no need to call the authorities. You know, no need to round up likely suspects. It's just been me. It's all good. Alright, and here we are, safe and sound, back with our chest. Picked up a stray bit of scrap iron that was there. I must have thrown it just underneath that wall at some point and never noticed, but it didn't go anywhere, so it's all good. We've dropped off all of the goodies we got from that crypt, and now we're back in the swamp to do a little bit of exploration. Because we have now cleared all of the crypts that we have so far uncovered, and we can see there's a little bit more swamp down this way, so it does seem to narrow a bit. So I'm not entirely sure if there's going to be a big enough area of swamp for a crypt to be in once we get past this narrow bit. But this is the reason why we're running down here and just doing a little bit of exploration, is just to establish if there is a crypt there. But I could tell by the time I got to where that abomination summoned in, there just isn't any. So I've just left exploring the rest of that for another day. In the meantime, here's a bit of light reading for you. Tells you the origin of the Draugrs, and it just says break them, bury them, and let them know that they are dead. Well, we've been doing that at every turn, and we're getting a fairly decent pile of their remains in our kitchen, ready to make sausages. Draugr sausages. Oh. Alright, now we've established that there's no useful places to get iron from in this swamp down here. We're disassembling our little base here, and we're going to take the portal and the wood with us for wherever we decide to set up again. I just did the #1 cardinal mistake there, which was to pick up the bench before I'd finished destroying everything, but I honestly thought I'd already clicked on the portal to destroy it, so yeah, whatever. We get there in the end, pick everything up, and then the locals, of course, show up because we did some building work. We deal with the locals, we pick up all of our bits, and now we run back to the tower. And by run, I mean crawl at barely a walking pace. Now, we've got a lot of iron on us, and we're going to leave 2 iron behind, because 2 iron is what we need for a stone working bench. Everything else we're taking with us. Oh, hello. Where did that come from? Yeah, that's one of the other things that I did off camera. Way back when we got our first iron, I actually made some nails. And you need 100 nails, which is 10 bars of iron, to have enough metal for that boat. There's some other ingredients, including the wood from the swamp, but it's the nails that usually hold you up. So once I had those made, I brought it through the portal and I dropped it down at the tower, and as you can see, all of that missing iron is already sitting there in the hold, ready to go. And how impressive does that look? So I'm going to ask the question, guys, do you think that's enough iron yet? Leave a comment below if you think it is. Alright, something else that's been going on off camera is the farming, because the farming is probably the number one most boring thing that you can do in Valheim early on. Now you can see in the inventory there we have 35 turnips. That's just our initial, I needed some so I could start making some more stamina food, specifically some turnip stew. So that is what we're going to make now. I just grabbed the required boar meat and we're going to rip out a few turnip stews, so we've got them there. The problem was that I was getting sick of carrot soup, I think is the other stamina food, and I'd run low on it and I just couldn't be bothered gathering a bucket load more carrots to make more carrot soup if I knew I was going to have enough turnips to make turnip stew in a very short order. So this is me transitioning from one to the next. Alright, fully restocked and repaired. Here we are back at our Viking longship, and we are getting ready to sail all of that delicious iron back to base. Now this thing is so much better than the little ship at dealing with, worse weather and stuff like that. The downside of this thing is it handles like a Bunnings shopping cart at low speed. Now, if you're not in Australia and you don't know what a Bunnings shopping cart is, you need to play Valheim, pilot one of these Viking longships, and then you'll understand how the physics works. Now, on the way back, I knew I was going to have to go past this guy, so I picked up the abyssal harpoon that I'd already made ages ago, and we are going to get ourselves a bit more serpent action, except this time we're going to drag him ashore so we can get his scales. Now if you ever want to know how to do that, pay very close attention. So we line up our boat towards the shore. It's under sail, so we don't need to be at the tiller to keep it going. And as you can see, this is the first time I've ever used my spear, and while I'm on the boat and I'm not doing anything, my stamina's not running down. So you can do this almost indefinitely, what's happening now. But the minute I leave the boat, my stamina is going to start draining, because that's just the effect on with the abyssal harpoon, because it's like fishing, you're fighting the fish. Well, as you're going to see, these serpents are not small. So he's fighting to get back into the water, and this is why I've had to run him so far ashore. So I've got time to get back to him, and then to try and build up a little bit of stamina so I can actually even swing a weapon at him to try and kill him. Now, as you can see, it's a bit of a fighting a losing battle. In retrospect, I probably should have had a tasty mead with me to help my stamina regen. But thanks to this rock being in the way and the serpent being stuck on the rock, it was actually a pretty easy run without it. And now, because I was in shallow water, I actually got both drops. So we now have some serpent scales. Alright, and here we are, successfully back at base. Yep, and this is the Bunnings shopping cart action that we have to put up with. It always wants to swing the backside first, like massively, as if it's pivoting on the very front of the ship. You do get used to it after a while, but at low speed it can get a bit frustrating in small areas. I'm just trying to get the nose in because that's where the cargo hold is. And if I can get it close enough, it means I can just load directly off the boat without actually having to be on the boat to do it. And you'll see how I do that in a minute. You just get it just close enough that when you mouse over the cargo hold, it lights up. And then you can just, you know, pick the stuff straight out without having to jump on and off the boat. Alright, with the first couple of bars of iron that we got off the rack, we've approached our first job of the day, which is to install the newest bit of cooking equipment, except I successfully messed this up a bit. I accidentally destroyed the fire when I didn't mean to. Thankfully I set it up so that I can snap it back in there in the right spot without too much trouble. Now, this is our new bit of cooking kit. You have to have one of these if you want to cook serpent meat or lox meat, or there could be other meats after that. And, and I think wolf meat as well, now I think about it. And now you're seeing it on there, you can understand why that stuff will not fit on the, on the smaller racks, because it's just too big for a small rack. Now, this stuff does take a while. Don't do an itchy and forget about it, because it will also turn to coal if you overcook it. This stuff goes into serpent stew. So you take the raw serpent meat, you cook it on here, and then you combine it with some other ingredients in the cauldron to make the serpent stew. And that is, at this level, about the best food you're going to find. Alright, as we relax by the fire with the sun in the distance, it is time to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Rudimentary Rob. If you want to see more, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe. And above all, make sure you have an amazing day.